Did you say 1, 2, 3, go?
Yeah.
Yep, there you go.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, Shanda, why don't you go ahead and lead the opening?
Yes, so welcome everybody all around the world, from everywhere in different parts of the world. Welcome to this yummy call with Dr. Anthony Mattis about bodies, and when you have too many choices, what do you do about that? When you have too many choices, what do you choose? Or do you not choose at all?
Yeah,
and we have
that's
here too, who are going to be in conversation, and me going to be in conversation with Dr. Anthony Mattis.
Yay. All right. So I love the title of the topic, because it is something that's been coming up for a lot of people lately, not just for you guys, but like for people all over the world. It's like when I first started Access 8 years ago, you know, there weren't as many possibilities. I mean, there were tons of possibilities even then. And I remember even feeling overwhelmed, like, where do I start? What do I choose? But like back then, there were only like 5 or 6 3-day body facilitators. You know, there wasn't like a lot to choose from, right? And today there's, I don't know, maybe 50. I'm not even sure. And I think soon there'll be over 100. And there's so many different specialty classes now. So many different specialty classes. And, you know, just 2 years ago, Shannon O'Hara, the creator of Talk to the Entities, allowed the Talk to the Entity beginner facilitators to be able to facilitate the specialty classes, you know, walk-ins, mental disorders, communicating with entities. So that created a lot of possibilities. So, but one thing that I can say is what I did, like we had so many clearings in Access. We still do. We have so many clearings. And I remember like, oh my God, which clearings do I run? Which clearings are appropriate for me? And so I would ask questions. I would look at where I was at that particular time in my life, right? So instead of like looking at everything that's on the menu, I would actually just like, I would put all those choices aside for one moment. I would get really, really present with what I required to change, what I knew I needed to change at that particular time in my life. And I said, okay, I'm just going to choose the one that pops, the one that really like sort of like rises up and grabs me. And that's the clearing I'm going to run for a week, 3 months, maybe even 6 months, until the energy of it no longer is so intense. And that's kind of what I did. It's like, yes, I had all these choices, and I was also choosing from other different modalities at the time in the very, very beginning. And as much as my kids were like, forget about those modalities, do Access. I still needed to kind of like explore and really know for myself. And so when I was really choosing from that space of what will create a greater future, even if it didn't make any sense in those particular 10 seconds, that's the one that I would always pick. And it's really served me really, really well. So I would ask questions like, okay, what do I need to clear and change right now? What clearing pops right now? What class, when I look at that class, really comes up and grabs me and matches the energy of what it is that I'm trying to change? And sometimes, like when I took my first entities class, for example, I had a strong point of view of, what do I need to take entity classes for? I don't see ghosts. It'd be a waste of my time. But something told me that I needed to go. Now, I personally went for all the wrong reasons now looking back, but I went because my kids fell in love with it. My kids actually chose that class. And so it's like, if you have a family, if you have children, you also need to include them when you make these choices energetically. So I would also be like, okay, what do my kids require as well? And it was like, I needed to go to that entity class. So even though I personally didn't get anything out of it my very first time, because I was there for all the wrong reasons, I went there to get answers, not to learn tools. It changed my kid's life. My one son was crying when we left because he loved it so much. He wanted to stay forever, you know? And it wasn't until about 3 years later where I actually started doing the entity classes, because I knew that it was something I needed to learn if I wanted to become the facilitator that I wanted to become. And it really has changed my life dynamically. So what I'm trying to say is, when you're faced with all these choices, there's so many amazing facilitators all over the world, not just for the 3-day body class, but for Talk to the Entities, for Conscious Parents, Conscious Kids. That didn't even exist. I mean, the book may have been out when I first started, but there was no specialty class for that where you have facilitators facilitating that work. Right Voice for You was something totally, completely different than what it is today. I don't know. There's so many things. And so look at where you are at this time in your life and be like, okay, what is it that I would like to change? What is it that I would actually like to create? And if I choose this class, what will my life be like in 5 years? And if I don't choose this class, what will my life be like in 5 years? And if it's if it's the same class and it happens to be different facilitators, like, okay, if I choose this class with this facilitator, what will my life be like in 5 years? Forget about what everybody else says about the facilitator, good, bad, right or wrong, how amazing, whatever. Forget about all that. It's not really about that. It's really about what matches where you are energetically for the change that you're actually asking for and desiring for. And you may be surprised that you may get an awareness that you may need to go back to the same facilitator again, or you may need to take a class from another facilitator that you may not even like. But it's popping for you to take that class because there's going to be a change, and it matches the energy of the change that you're actually asking for and desiring for. So that's kind of how I went with it. Now, a lot of times people do light and heavy, but a lot of times when people get a heavy, when they think about choosing a class, they think that the heavy means that they should not take the class. And that's not necessarily true. Sometimes the heavy could be, you're about to get the change you've been asking for, and it may not be comfortable.
Right.
And a lot of us are seeking comfort sometimes, right? We want it to be easy. We want to change all our dramas and traumas and have it be comfies and cozies. And it doesn't always happen like that. Sometimes, when you are doing consciousness, especially access consciousness, your warts and all, the good, the bad, and the ugly are going to get exposed eventually. But that's not a bad thing. It's an opportunity to finally look at the things that haven't been working. It's an opportunity to look at the things that have been blind spots for you, causing you to be limited. And so if you get a heavy, you want to ask, is it heavy because it's a no? Or is it heavy because I'm about to get some serious change, and I may have to look at things that might be really, really uncomfortable, but you know what? So what? I got the tools available for me to look at those things, and I could finally change these things that aren't working for me once and for all. So that's kind of how I went about choosing classes. And you know what? It never failed me. I mean, it never failed me when I was in the question with it.
Wow. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Anthony. Because
Yeah.
like you said, right now, there's so much out there. There's so many specialty classes. There's so many facilitators. There's so many classes. It's so often that you hear people calling you and saying, hey, I feel really overwhelmed with everything that's out there. That's for you to choose from. And that's such a beautiful way to explain it, that you just choose because it's like, what will your life be like 5 years from now? And it's not really necessarily that the light will create greater. It's really, you want to ask also what part of this is heavy and what part of this is
Yeah,
light, right?
exactly. Yep, totally. And it's not linear. It's like when you're really doing consciousness, none of it's linear, because a lot of people have the point of view is like, okay, I'm going to take this class, this class, this class, and this class because I want to be a CF, right? And so they go in like the straight line. But what if the thing that you've been desiring to change, you have to kind of go this way a little bit and take this class like way over here, like X-Men or something, or, I don't know, Right Body for You or something like that. And none of those classes have anything to do with like working towards becoming a certified facilitator, right? But it's like,
Yeah.
but if you're in the question, those classes may match the energy of what it is you're trying to change. And if you go with that, if you follow the energy of that, all those other things come easier, because you're changing the things that you've been asking to change, and it opens up this space for you to actually receive even more.
Wow. Thank
And
you.
quicker.
Yeah, so much quicker.
Yeah, so much quicker. And yeah, so I remember like I got overwhelmed too, because I'm like, oh my God, you know, I invested so much money in all these other modalities. And then when I got to Access, I'm like, oh my God, this is the most expensive modality ever. I'm like, this is so expensive. What the heck? How am I going to afford this?
You
But
too?
you know,
You mean you too? I thought it was just
yeah,
us.
no, yeah. I mean, I did. And it's like, but I also made a commitment and a demand. I'm like, you know what? If these tools really work, I'm like, the money's going to show up. So I made a commitment not to put one class on a credit card. And so, you know, I bought the How to Become Money workbook, and I started going through the book. I bought the Money's Not the Problem, You Are, right? Because money was a problem for me at that time. I never had achieved anything like beyond financial mediocrity up until that point, okay? And so I'm like, my money situation has to change. So I made a commitment to, I had posted money clearings like all over my house, like on my bathroom mirror, where I made my coffee, where I made the kids' school lunches, in my car. So anytime I would start stressing out about money, I would read those clearings. And then eventually I would memorize the clearings. So anytime I started thinking negatively about the lack of money, I would say the clearings. And when I tell you that the universe completely rearranged itself so I could afford to go to all the advanced access classes, the money showed up. The money showed up like waving a magic wand. And I could have never have predicted the different ways that it did show up. But it showed up because I was so present with the tools, those money tools at that time, and I never gave up on it. And anytime I would start head tripping about the lack of money, I would use the tool immediately. And I got so many different stories about the way money would just show up almost like mysteriously. And I'm like, wow, that money matches the amount of money I need to take, you know, the choice of possibilities, which was called 2 and 3 at the time. Or, you know, my accountant was screwing up my books for 6 months, and I knew something was wrong. And I'm not good with numbers, but I knew something was wrong because I kept going in the red. And I'm like, what's going on? I'm not making less money. Why am I going in the red? He's like, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. He's like, maybe you're spending more money. I'm like, I'm not doing anything. I have no life. I don't leave the house. You know, I was a single father. And then sure enough, he finally looks at it. He goes, yeah, you've been paying too much in taxes. He's like, you're going to get $14,000 back
Wow.
US.
Wow.
And he goes, and you don't have to pay for the next year. For the first 6 months, you don't have to send in any money. So that was about 20,000 US dollars when it was all said and done. That basically paid for all my advanced classes. You know what I mean?
Wow. Yeah. Yeah,
So,
that's awesome. So you
so
mean
when
to
you're
say
in,
when you just choose, money just shows up?
yeah. Well, when you choose based on following the energy from the
Right.
questions that you ask, and not automatically concluding because something's heavy that it's a no, right? That's sort of like Access 101, right? Okay, so maybe, you know, if something's heavy, maybe there's a lie there, you know, or, you know, there's a lie, there could be the truth with a lie attached, and that's why there's something really heavy about it, you know, whatever. But it was like every time I would ask questions and the things would show up into my life, and I'm like, wow, that matches the energy of the question I've been running for the last 3 months. And then I would just go with that. I didn't know what I was doing. I was clueless. So I had nothing to lose at the time because I was already at rock bottom, right? I had nowhere else to go. I was already at bottom. And so here are all these choices. I wanted to be a certified facilitator in one day, you know, but it took me like 2 years, 2.5 years before I got there. And I did it without putting my family in debt.
Can I ask you a question here, Anthony?
Yeah.
You said that you were rock bottom, and that's when, you chose greater, right? And you chose something different because you were anyway rock bottom. It's almost like, where else can I go from here? I got to choose something to get out of this being rock bottom. How many of us actually wait to be rock bottom? And so many of us
Mm,
don't choose when we are just, we are kind of swimming. So we are like, it's okay, I don't need to choose now. I'll wait
yeah,
till I dip a little. So
yeah,
what do you suggest when we are there? When you're like, okay, I'm still swimming, I'm not drowning. When I start to drown, I'll choose greater.
yeah. Good point. That's a great point because it actually took me at my very first facilitators, and you've heard me say this story before. It was day 3, my very first certified facilitators, where I was like, oh, access is not about just getting you through your dramas and traumas and your pain and suffering. It's not just about pulling you out of rock bottom. There's actually palpable magic that's available for all of us. This is also about making your life, like if your life is already great, it's about making it greater. The tools are available to make your life even greater than it already is. So it's not just for the people who are suffering. It's not just for the people who have hit bottom. It's also for the people who have already have amazing lives and they just want to make it even more amazing, because there's no like level with this work. It doesn't like stop when you get to a certain point. And that's something that took me about 2.5 years to realize. And that showed up at my very first facilitators, where I was like, I've been making this about my drama and trauma, my upsets and getting out of my pain and suffering, and it has nothing to do with that. I mean, it will help you with that,
Mm.
but it's also about just giving you the tools to make your life even greater than it already is too.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And it's such a way of us looking at our life that we need to choose greater, or we need to change something only when it's not working.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
and Gary shows me all the time. Gary Douglas, the founder of Access Consciousness, he shows me all the time that like right, they're building El Agar. They have all these wonderful creations that's going on, and then one day he's like, I'm gonna buy a castle. It's like his life's already great, right? But he's like, I'm gonna buy a castle. I have no idea how I'm gonna pay for it, right? But he's like, I know this is gonna create greater for the future. It matches the energy of what I'd like to create in the world. And it's like, but he didn't have like all this information and all this factual information before he chose it. He just chose it because it matched the energy. And in choosing that, everything else fell into place. It didn't mean that there weren't some weird things that would show up here and there, but he would look at it, instead of going into the wrongness of his choice, he would be like, okay, what else is possible here? How can we make this better? What's right about this maybe shitty situation that's showing up right now that I'm not getting? He would always stay in the question, and then boom, a possibility would open up and he'd be able to change it and make it greater. Right. And so watching him use the tools at action is really such a gift, because he really does embody the tools, and he does choose sometimes. He does jump off the cliff sometimes without having all the facts, without figuring it out,
Yeah.
right? He just knows, he perceives the future. And so that's what I've been trying to function as and I'll tell you, sometimes it's scary. It really is scary. Even choosing a class, it's like, all right, I'm going to take this class. I'm kind of nervous about it. I don't know about this facilitator, but I don't know. Something is sort of pulling me there. It doesn't make any sense, but I'm just going to go for it, and see what shows up. And most of the time when you follow that energy, your life changes dynamically.
Wow. Wow. That's such a beautiful share. Thank you for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
have a
And,
few
and
questions actually. Yeah. Go ahead.
yeah, well, one thing I want to say too about the one person who said that they were overwhelmed with all these choices.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Are you overwhelmed, or do you just get super excited about all the possibilities of what's available?
Yeah.
That's
Wow.
my question. Yeah.
That's a great question to ask and get someone out of the overwhelm. Overwhelm
Yeah.
is anyway a lie, right? And when we hear that, we are like, yeah, okay, that's the access way, but I'm still overwhelmed. Don't you see that?
Yeah.
I have so much of choice.
It
Yeah.
really, it's true. It's true. And and you just do one class at a time, and it's okay. You go at your own pace. Like, don't put pressure on yourself to have to do it all tomorrow, right? You do it when you can do it. But it's like, take a tool, take a class, and use those tools, implement them in your life, and watch how your life changes dynamically.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Wow, we have a few questions actually. Isha, can you read them,
Okay.
please? I am not able to get to them.
Shreya's asking, whenever I announce my class, people get interested but share they can't pay so much. What is this?
Well, people, there's two things you can't argue with, right? Time and money. When people say, I don't have enough money, right? It's like, can you not pay for it? Or is it that you're choosing not to pay for it? I invite those people who say they don't have the money is to look at where you are spending your money. And, and really what is a priority for you? And it's like, so many times I would say that 95% of the people can afford your classes. And it really just is a choice. 95% of the people that are looking at taking your classes and say that they don't have the money, they actually do have the money. It's just that they choose to spend their money elsewhere, and it's really not a priority for them to choose consciousness. And so you just let people choose. You'd be like, okay, cool. I mean, what are you going to do? If they tell you they don't have the money, they don't have the money. But it's like, is it that you don't have the money, or is it that you're choosing to spend your money elsewhere?
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, because those same people go out and buy expensive clothes or a brand new car like 3 days later.
A really expensive Maldives vacation.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just a choice. And it's like,
Yeah.
yeah. And I've seen it time and time again over the last 20 something years. Even when I was a chiropractor in my clinic, they're like, I can't afford your care. I can't afford your care. And then they pull up in a big giant Hummer. This is very expensive car. Or they come in, a BMW SUV or something like that. Like 3 days later, I'm like, wait a minute, you just said you don't have any money. You're buying a brand new car. And I'm like, okay. And it's like, oh my God, I got kicked in the ass with that so many times because I would feel sorry for them. And then I would actually discount my services for them, and I learned that the hard way. So choice creates awareness. Don't buy into people's poverty. It's their choice not to afford your class.
Wow, I love that one.
Love it. Awesome. Okay, someone is asking, what allows us to make choosing consciousness a priority?
Choice. Choice. And it's like, I did it because I was consciousness was always something that I was seeking my whole life. So that was something that was like inside of me since I was little. I was always a seeker. I was always a seeker. I would ask questions about life after death all the time. I always wanted to know about God. I always wanted to know about, and all the different religions fascinated me. Not just one religion, but all of them. And I always wanted to know more. I've had a guru for almost 2 years. It's like I did so many things. So for me, seeking consciousness was something that was fun for me. Okay, I always knew that there was something more than what this reality was presenting itself as. I knew that there was something beyond that. So I was always searching for that like guru or that mentor or that special pastor who was anointed by God or whatever the case may be. And I realized that, again, when I got to access is not about giving you the answer to anything. It's actually about having these tools that teach you how to be in the question so you can get the download in awarenesses, that you require. And that to me is one of the most empowering. That's more empowering than any guru I've ever had. It's more empowering than any mentor I've ever had. And it's more empowering than any pastor I've ever had in my entire life. So I'd have to say, for me personally, that's always been a natural desire of mine to seek more, to seek things beyond the mundane of this reality. But what really attracted me to access was that, like, it was like I dug up everything in my unconscious mind. I did all the therapy. I had all the gurus. And when I started listening to Access, so like, we get to those things that are even beyond the unconscious. There could be things where you're messed up and it could be like way out here and it's beyond the unconscious or conscious mind. And I'm like, okay, well, that's interesting. Let me at least check it out. And again, I thought I was a lost cause at that point. So I'm like, well, let me at least bring the kids and, you know, maybe I could save their future. And so they started getting great results, loving the tools. And then I just kept going for them. And then all of a sudden it started changing my life dynamically. I mean, the results were undeniable. So it's not like somebody's going to put inside of you, choose consciousness. That's something that's got to come from within you, you know? And it's like, what do you want in life? What would you like to create? What would you like to choose? How would you like to live your day-to-day life? I don't just do Access when I go to Access classes. I don't just do Access when I facilitate classes. Access is the tools of Access consciousness. And it's not like I'm not doing it like a religion. I choose to use the tools. Why? Because they make my life more fun. They make my life more fun.
Yeah.
So it's choice.
Do we have time for one more question that's in the
absolutely.
chat? Okay. So does that mean if one has so much choice, you focus on the area you would like a change in and run clearings around that for weeks or months?
Yeah, it's not like that you focus, you just ask questions. Okay, cool. What's important to me right now? What area of my life would I like to really change right now? Okay, money or relationships or my sadness, right? So you look at the tools that are available and then just whatever one that pops, whatever one that just goes, yes, like, you know, to the thing that, you know, then you run with that. It may just be receiving the bars 2 to 3 days a week if you're sad, right? Or if you have anxiety issues or whatever. You know, people who suffer with a lot of mental illness, like, or anxiety or bipolar or, you know, schizophrenia or just depression. A lot of you may have entity awareness. So it may pop that you need to take maybe entity tools, because a lot of you may have those symptoms because of your awareness with the spirit world, but no one's giving you the tools to learn how to deal with that. So it may pop for you to take some entity classes, and it may not make any sense. It's not on your path to become a certified facilitator or anything like that, but it's on the path to make your life easier. You know what I mean? And that's why I always chose what I chose at the times that I did, because it just simply matched the energy of the question I was asking to change that area of my life. It wasn't linear. It wasn't like, okay, I have money issues, therefore I must study money stuff. It was just like, okay, cool. What would I like to change? You know, what would it take for me to make more money than God? It was like, boom, How to Become Money workbook would show up. Or something else would show up over here, like, hey, study the Gentleman's Club. Well, what does sex and relationships and being stupid with women have anything to do with money? A ton. A ton for me. A ton for me. Because when I would choose relationship, I would bend, fold, and mutilate myself to fit into the relationship, and I would stop my creative flows, which affects my money. So you see how it kind of zigzagged?
Wow, that's like everything's connected, right? It's all just connected.
Yeah.
It's all related to each other. It's like you make a choice here and something, it shows up somewhere else. The change shows
Totally.
up somewhere else. Yeah. That is
I
so
remember, yeah, I remember doing the How to Become Money workbook and the Gentleman's Club at the same time. And I was blown away by how much both things had to do with each other. You think you're doing separate topics, but you're not. You're not. Because when you cut yourself off for a utopian ideal, when you cut yourself off to fit into a relationship, you are stopping your generative and creative capacities, which is going to affect your money flows.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe how connected they were. I was like, wow, this is amazing. They totally blend together. And I was so grateful that I was doing both those book clubs at the same time, because it really opened me up to like, wow, you know, being everything that you are does contribute to you making more money.
being everything you are just contribute to you being more money.
Yeah.
That's a meme, Dr. Anthony Mattis.
There you go. Somebody write that down. Karen, if you're on there, write that one down. Thanks.
Yes, please. Yeah.
Yeah. And it just all comes down to receiving. It's like, what more would you like to receive in life? And that's the beauty of all the tools and access, is they sort of prepare the way for you to be able to receive greater in all areas of your life. Not just more money, not just nicer cars, not just more sex or whatever, but just more receiving in all areas where everything is contributing to you and you perceive it all the time without a point of view. That's true receiving. When you have access to everything without a point of view.
So on that note, can we speak a little bit about receiving from the body?
Well,
Yes!
you know,
We're going to talk about bodies with Dr. Anthony Mattis.
Well,
And
well,
can you
yeah,
also
go ahead.
add, when you're in the body class, I've heard so many stories of people saying that when they were in a body class, how their entire life or their family shifted or their money flow or the business shifted. They went there for solving a particular body issue because the body was giving a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
How all the other things start shifting in their life.
I know. And that's really, really what it's about. It's like, because all the tools are designed for you to have more consciousness, not just, oh, I'm going to make the pain in my neck go away. You know what I mean? That's a side effect. Look, pain disappearing is a side effect of choosing more consciousness. Period. So the more consciousness you choose, the more tools you use to break free from the unconsciousness and anti-consciousness that consumes your life, the more you use the tools to change unconsciousness and anti-consciousness and become more conscious, your life gets exponentially greater. So one of the side effects is the pain dissipates or lessens or goes away completely. Your relationship with your husband or wife gets better, or you finally have the courage to leave an abusive one, right? Your relationship with your children get better. It's just a side effect of being and choosing more consciousness. And so, yeah, that happens because that's what the tools are about, is so that you have more awareness, more consciousness, and greater choice and greater things to choose from. Oh, and then so about the body stuff, you know, what we explore in especially in the 3-day body classes, we begin to explore how to use your body as an information resource center. Right? Instead of saying, ow, I've had this neck pain for 25 years, or oh my God, my joints are getting old and stiff. I'm getting old. I'm over 40 years old and it's all downhill from here, you know? I'm supposed to like fall apart slowly, but surely but slowly until I die. Well, what if those are just interesting points of view? And what if all those different pains in your body are nothing more than power or capacities that you're not willing to acknowledge? What if those pains or intensities in your body is your body giving you information about what the earth requires from you energetically? What if those pains or intensities in your body are awareness of entities around you? What if those pains or intensities in your body are awarenesses of other people that have issues with their body, right? Around the world. So what if you were just aware and your body was giving you information all the time about the world around you, both the seen and unseen world? So that's what we actually begin to explore in the 3-day body class. And with all the tools of access consciousness, is to use your body to be in the question and to ask your body, what are you telling me with these intensities? Am I not acknowledging capacities of mine, right? Or am I aware of other people's bodies who hurt? What can I contribute to them energetically? Not go and try to fix them, but do I need to flow them energy, right? Do I need to pull energy through them to change the stiffness in their back or neck? You know, I mean, it's beautiful. It's just constant information that you are receiving from your body, but we're refusing to listen. But we start to explore that in the 3-day body class, which makes it a lot of fun.
Yeah, I have done your body class last time when you were in India. And Anthony, it changed so much for my body. Not just for my body, but for my entire life, my entire reality with my body, with money, with my relationships. Everything's different.
Awesome. How does it
There's
get
so much
better?
more ease, and there's so much, and I'm just so much more present with every moment of my being.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not like initially there was, oh, I'm going into a class now, or I'm going to be facilitating a class now, so I have to get present. And it was like an off and on. Okay, now I'm playing the role of a facilitator. I got to get present. But
Yeah.
now it's almost like, well, being present and me, we go hand in hand. And
Yeah.
that's a huge shift that came with your body class.
Cool.
Really,
So
thank you.
glad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Awesome.
with your ASV sessions, if I can say,
Oh, thank you.
oh my God, you be that energy during the body class. Do you? I don't know. Do you? I'm just wondering, because there's a
I'm
very different energy that sometimes shows up while you're facilitating a body class.
Thanks. I'm just being me, and it's like, and that's really, again, what we're inviting everyone to, is just to be more of them, because we've been hiding ourselves. We've been hiding ourselves from the world for a variety of different reasons. And so it's like, Dane here, Dr. Dane here, wrote the book, Being You, Changing the World. And really all the tools of access are all there to invite you to just be more of you. And so it's like, for whatever reason, it wasn't until I started facilitate access consciousness classes is where it created the space for me to start being more of me. So that's really what you're aware of. You're just aware of Anthony being more of Anthony, right? And uncensored Anthony is really the real me. When I was a chiropractor, I had to be a professional because I'm a doctor, and I shouldn't curse and I shouldn't say inappropriate things because I'm a professional. It's like, now that's all I say is inappropriate things. You know what I mean? But it's like but saying inappropriate things brings up these energetic charges, and it creates this possibility to change those things that aren't working in our lives. So it's fun, and we all get to play, and we all get to laugh about how insane we all are, right? And so what you're just aware of is just, it's not like I go in there and like, oh, I'm gonna be a specific energy. No, it's like, oh, I get to be me today, and I get to play in the energy of me, and I get to play with you. I get to play with Isha. I get to play with everybody in the class, even the people who are like, fuck you, I hate you. I get to play with them too, because even if they have that point of view, it doesn't hurt my feelings, because I'm having so much fun anyway, whether they choose to come along or not, right? And that's a totally different way of functioning. Like the old me would be like, oh my God, they're not happy, they're miserable, they're not choosing. What am I going to do? I'm a failure. No, it's like, oh, that sucks. They're not choosing. It's okay. What can I do to make their life a little bit easier? And if it doesn't work, oh well, right? But everybody else is having fun, And so it's just being me. And I'll never forget, Gary Douglas said to me, he goes, chiropractic doesn't create the space for you to be all of you. He goes, access does. He's like, you've found what you've been looking for.
Wow.
And that was like, holy shit. I had a big holy shit moment. And I'm like, yeah. And literally, it's like, I spent over 6 figures in money to get my chiropractic education, to basically no longer be being I'm not a chiropractor anymore. You know what I mean? I still have my license, but I spent over $100,000 in US dollars to get my chiropractic education, and I'm not even doing it anymore. Right. But it was like, this reality would be like, why would you throw that all away? I haven't thrown it all away. I include it, but access matches the energy of who I be. So that's what you're aware of.
Wow.
Yeah. So I got to go because my daughter is in this event at school. So thank you so much for your
Thank
invitation. I
you.
cannot wait to
Thank
see
you
you
for
all
being
in April.
on, and have a
Yeah.
wonderful event. And we're looking forward to having you in April in Mumbai, and
Awesome.
for the 3-day body class, and for the fabulous ASP sessions that you give. And
Thank you.
yes, we'll share the registration link. And thank you. And Suruchi, Isha, and I are here to help you with the links or anything at all that you require. And yeah, let's
Awesome.
have fun with bodies, guys.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.